Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and we're here today with special guest Danielle LaPorte, who's here to share with us her new book, How to Be Loving, as your heart is breaking open and our world is waking up. So Danielle is a member of Oprah's Super Soul 100, a group who, in Oprah's words, is uniquely connecting the world together with a spiritual energy that matters. She was the former director of a future studies think tank in Washington, D.C., where she managed a team creating global scenarios. And she now speaks on the intelligence of love. Her heart-centered facilitators program and membership evolved out of the Desire Map, with over 400 workshop facilitators in 32 countries. So welcome to the show, Danielle LaPorte.
Hello, hello.
What an honor it is to have you here and to talk about your new book. What inspired you to write this?
A whole lifetime of learning things the hard way and a bit of grace. The book that came to be, How to Be Loving, didn't begin that way. It was meant to be more of a sequel to my book, The Desire Map, which is about getting clear on how you want to feel and then having that question, how do I want to feel, guide your life. And I had some revelations along the way that fulfillment wasn't necessarily about being in a good mood every day and crushing your goals. It was more about what you want to embody. What's the quality, the energy, the virtue that you want to be all the time, no matter what is happening outside of yourself. And that's sort of the philosophical arc of it. So we got to a new question. What do you want to embody? And hopefully the answer is love, no matter what.
Do you find for most people, especially right now, that that's something they're really craving for?
Oh, yes. I think people are craving to have deeper connection. I think they want to repair a lot of the strain and the damage that's been done over these last few years of so much global divide, polarization, stress. I think it is the best of human nature to long for connection. And I think waking up and really becoming a whole person is about backing up that longing with the courage to connect and all the practices that help us really live from loving kindness. And my experience, my observation so far, especially around this conversation around love, consciousness, compassion, is that people feel that this topic is right on time because they know that, whatever we've been doing for decades, really for centuries, has not gotten us to a healthy place. There's another way. And when you have this kind of offside, quiet conversation, most people say, yeah, I know love is the game changer. I know kindness in my business would change everything. But then, we have all of this social programming that conditions us to do things differently, do things the other way, which is, paying attention to the bottom line, basing our self-worth on our productivity. And, that's all a downward spiral.
I've heard many people say, well, I'd like to be more loving, but I feel like my heart is closed. What are your thoughts on that?
So I'm going to split hairs here with wording. I think the heart is always open. I think we know in ourselves, we know on a spiritual level what love is. I think the soul knows that we're made of the stuff. It's who we really are. Love is our true nature. And somewhere where every single one of us is aware of that. And the nature of love is it's eternal. It's always there, no matter what. It's our substance. So the heart itself, our consciousness, our love isn't up or down or open or closed. It's really our thinking. And I think awareness, consciousness, spirituality is really about thinking with love. So your wounded self, your unhealed self, your angry self is going to give you these really divisive thoughts like, this situation should have me shut my heart down. I should be angry at this. And this is what anger looks like. That's all conditioning. Whereas if we just can create some practices of stillness, quiet the mind, we move into that really abiding foundational space. Or just like, oh, actually, love is my default. I want to love. I want to be love. Like the vast majority of people. I mean, the vast majority of people will say that the vast majority of people are good. And what I think we're really saying with that, if we just want to go just a little deeper, is that we are naturally loving. And I see this a lot with people when you get into a conversation around forgiving. My belief is that love is the core stuff, who we're made of, and that our first inclination before we think things through is to forgive people in almost every situation. But socially, there's all these structures put into place about accountability and right and wrong and legalities and contracts and all of our intellectual dancing that really just keeps us out of the heart. But the heart has always got enough space for everybody's behavior and having compassion for that. And it's always got space to have compassion for our own not so great behavior.
Thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
We need that. Yeah. We need that grace,
Yes, that's now. What it is. That's what it is. It's grace.
Well, I know in your book, you talk about, just how we can really start this practice of thinking with love. How do we do that?
I do something called a stillness sandwich, which is I create stillness in the morning and I create stillness at night. Because I think you cannot hear your higher guidance. You cannot figure out what you actually learned from the day unless you just take a minute. And stillness for people can look differently. I mean, it can be as simple as like a walk, 5 minutes of journaling, waking up before everybody else in your household wakes up. But you just be with yourself, set your intentions for the day. Maybe you have a meditation practice, which I think is as essential as, clean eating and hygiene. And then I believe that that's when life speaks to you. You've got to slow down to hear the universal wisdom that is trying to get to you. And if you don't slow down, I mean, we all either have had this experience ourselves or know people who've had the experience of, we've got all the goals and we're running to crush it and we are multitasking and it's our life becomes one to-do list after another, and days turn into years. And if we're not slowing down, life will slow us down. And there is an intervention and there's a fender bender or a blindside ending with a relationship or a job or a diagnosis, something to say like, stop. Are you paying attention to your pain? Are you being gentle with your pain? Are you paying attention to what you really want in life? Deeper connection, more meaning, more fulfillment, because, you've been running too fast. So I think one way to, I don't want to say avoid, but, circumnavigate those potential wake-up calls, painful wake-up calls. Most wake-up calls are pretty painful, is to just wake up a little more every day by having a stillness practice.
So how does the practice of bringing our attention to pain help us heal?
Well, if you're not offering that loving kindness, that attention, that warmth to your wounds and, your bruises from relationship and trauma from family of origin circumstances or any other circumstances, most of us are walking around with some degree of trauma. it is going to fester, and it's going to speak louder and louder to get your attention. And it will come in the form of those painful wake-up calls, or anxiety, or illness, and brain fog, and fatigue, and all of that disharmony, all of that stuff that's out of balance is coming up to say, hey, I want to get back into balance. So pain is a nudge. And what I've learned to do, and I see this work for so many people, especially, the women in my world, is instead of pushing pain away, we greet it. Instead of giving ourselves a self-critical talk that, we're a loser, an underachiever, we're not evolved enough or together enough because we've manifested whatever kind of pain or agonizing situation. Like, there's no self-criticism about the tough time. There's no self-criticism about the pain or the challenge. And then you engage with it with warmth. Just like, your child comes to you upset. You don't say, you should be more mature about this, or I don't have time for this. You would never do that. You meet your child with warm friendliness, total love. And then the child calms down, and they get a little more aware and a little more awake and a little stronger because of your loving attention. We need to think of those wounded parts of ourselves, our anxiety and our neuroses and our greed and whatever your thing is, as those are our creation. Those are little mind children, and they want our attention. So they come into balance, they calm down, and we get through life more smoothly.
I think all of us want to sign up for that,
Yeah.
Get through life more smoothly. That doesn't mean that we won't have the challenges that we face, right?
No, I mean, everybody, the wisest among us, the most, even enlightened beings, as gurus or spiritual directors, it's just challenging being right here now on this planet. Like, things are strained and stressing on all levels, whether it's, unclean drinking water and things in the atmosphere, to political divides and families that are stretched. It's a challenge on the nervous system to be in contemporary culture. And, this has been building for a while. And I think that stress of the environment is showing up on all levels. It's showing up in our relationships. It's showing up economically. It's showing up in all social systems. And the best thing we can do to really make a difference in the world is to focus on what's required to heal our own nervous systems. What's required for you to get into harmony with the key people in your life? And then can you take that harmony out and bring it into the office and into your community? That's where it all begins. Yeah.
I love how in your book you talk about how spirituality is really the practice of thinking with love. And I think that really kind of hones it down for people when they look at it that way.
Yeah. It's, we've all heard the phrase, what would love do? Or what would Jesus do? Or what would the Buddha do? It's the idea here is that you're not moving from fear. You don't speak from fear. You don't eat from fear or invest or lead from your fear self, from the part of you that's scared of being hurt again or being humiliated or operating from lack. That you move through life, whether it's leadership or relationships or how you take care of your body or how you vote or how your work in the world. You move from that place of love, which is, how would compassion run this team meeting? How would inclusiveness run this business? How would generosity show up in a strained relationship? That's the idea. So, this notion of thinking with love is really about, you refer to your heart first for what to do instead of somebody outside of yourself. Why are we? There's lots of wisdom out there. I mean, here I am. I'm a personal growth author. I hope I can ease your pain with some wisdom nugget. There's lots of it to be found. But instead of coming to me first, or any other book or workshop or leader first, you have to refer to your own inner guidance. And that's what's going to make all the difference. It's like, at some point in my life, I realized, if I'm going to make some mistakes, and there will be many, I want to make my own mistakes. Like, I want my mistake to be, I decided to go left instead of right. But I was asking myself first, and then I get a little closer to my intuition. My instincts get a little more honed. Whereas if I'm taking everybody else's advice, and that's leading me out in the wrong direction, I'm still not any closer to my own intuition. So self-referencing is really how you build a life of, I think it's what leads to peace. Yeah, make your own mistakes.
That's such great advice. I think with books like yours, it helps lead the way for us to be able to make those changes, because a lot of us have really been socially trained in order to act or think in one way or another.
A lot of conditioning. Like, one thing I bring up in the book and How to Be Loving is around conditioning of emotions. So, everybody right now can think of, let me think of a agitating scenario. You invite someone to your birthday party. You really want them to be there. They show up. They're supposed to bring the birthday cake. They don't show up at all. Now, life's going to tell you, we're conditioned. You should be angry. You should be disappointed. You should express that anger in a certain way. Okay. Of course, human nature to be disappointed in that. But what if we went to the heart first? Just said, okay, just hold on. Before I move into this conditioned response that could be damaging for everybody involved, what if I just see this with some love? It's like, I'm concerned something could happen. This could be some kind of cry for love. And my birthday party was fine. This doesn't change who I am. This doesn't change how connected I am to my soul or to other people. I can just flow with some love with this. I mean, you think about referencing the heart in all of those sticky situations. Just think about how many blow-ups and blowouts we could avoid, and how much stronger our relationships would be if the first step was compassion or forgiveness. How many rifts and how many grievances we would never even have to get into if we just thought, what would love do right now? And love has space to get angry. Love is both. It's the holy and the human. But kindness first, and then you get strategic.
That is awesome. Because it's interesting. In your book, you talk about how, we really, in ultimate inclusiveness, we really are accepting all of us, which I so appreciated.
Yeah, the idea here is about reverence. So this is also part of social conditioning and human nature, is that the things that we're ashamed of or cause us distress, we want to push those away. So for most of us, it's some kind of fear. It's anxiety. It's fear of failure. It's there's this list that we have. It's a pretty short universal list. It's some expression of fear. And usually we're pushing it away. We're trying to repress it. We talk down to it. It's like, oh, there's my fear again. It's like, I just got to put you in the corner and get on with things. I'm going to go crush this. I'm going to overcome my fear. Oh, trying to overcome fear is actually one of the most damaging things. What all those things want is your attention. So like, I think phase one is tolerance. It's like, okay, I have this guilt complex that comes up. I have this little neuroses. I have this script that tells me I'm not worthy. I really do not like this about myself, but I'm going to tolerate it because it isn't changing at the moment. Okay, that's cool. I mean, that's better than self-criticism, punishment, pushing it away. Then I think the next level is we move into like legit acceptance. This is a thing I have. And the definition of acceptance is very simple. And, in this context, acceptance is embracing what you've been pushing away. You're not just standing in the room with it. You're going to like get close to it and take it with you. And then I think there's a higher level, which is when we move into like, we are superhuman. It's a big call, but I think the invitation in terms of like evolving is we move into reverence with this stuff. So instead of, really coming down on your doubt, like, oh, I wish I was more faithful and trusting and I didn't worry so much and my doubt just plagues me. Why don't you actually see the gift in your doubt and have a conversation with it? You created this, to have a talk with it. It comes bearing a gift. It's challenging. There's a gift in the challenge, but there's a gift in kind of the texture of the negativity. And it might go like, wow, doubt. Every time you come up, you are a reminder for me to double down on my faith. Or guilt. Every time you come up, you remind me of, you help me remember that I should look at my purest intentions. You see where I am whole and loving. And so it goes. And what happens when we do that is, in a very poetic sense, we become more whole, we become more mature, we become more stable, because we're the stabilizing factor, right? We're not letting those emotions run the show. We're saying, you know what? Dear guilt, dear doubt, dear whatever it is, I'm in charge and I am loving. I have room for you and I'm going to take you with me. I'm going to proceed to be successful and a good mother or whatever it is that we're trying to do and achieve. But we do that as our whole selves, not as our splintered, chaotic selves.
You have this great roadmap to teach people how to be loving. Is it that you find that people sometimes just don't have the right questions or really know how to approach this?
I think people don't believe that they are worthy of love. I think they doubt that they are capable of loving themselves fully, let alone loving other people fully. I think we're plagued with doubt. And that's the worst and most aggressive social conditioning that we have, that we're separate from each other. That's not true. We all come from the same source. That we are not connected to something higher and more meaningful. That's not true. Something higher and more meaningful, however you want to look at it, some universal intelligence is responsible for everything. And we come from that. So the call to love is to just work on your belief system, to raise the vibration of your belief system, which really, this gets into loving thoughts and raising the quality of your thoughts, which is, I really think, the heart of the How to Be Loving book is, listen, we all have to know that our thoughts are creating our realities. Our thoughts affect our nervous system. Our thoughts affect our decisions, our choices, our perspective in the world. So if you want to live healthy and whole and in balance, then you need to choose healthy, balanced thinking. And nobody else is in charge of that. This is the beauty of free will. You might not be able to control your circumstances. You certainly cannot control other people or things on a global scale, but you can choose what you think about everything. And you can choose to see things as blessings or curses, as gifts or pure challenge. You can choose to see everybody as connected to you or as against you. I mean, really, you get to say if you are seeing the universe as like a friendly or as a hostile place. And that choice is going to determine the course of your life and your health.
It really sounds like making these shifts in perspectives and how life is. And I love how you talk about, looking for the blessings, because it just really shifts everything into a whole different area.
And this doesn't mean that, finding the gift in everything. Like, this is part of the new age spiritual bypass that happens, is like, there's tragedy, there's hardship in our own kitchens and in our own countries and on a global scale. There is injustice, there's challenges. Finding the gift in that is not saying everything's okay, or that was karma, or I'm happy no matter what. Finding the gift in that is, all of these challenges expand me. The challenge is real. This is actually for real hard. But I'm becoming a more aware person. I'm becoming more connected to the people in my life. I'm seeing what I'm made of. I'm getting more connected to the earth. So we turn our gratitude to the growth of the situation. And, every mystic has talked about gratitude really being the basis for abundance. I don't think, life wants to build on what you have already set down in your life, right? Like, so create something strong and real. Like, I am grateful for clean drinking water. I am grateful for the love I do have in my life. I am grateful for, the list is infinite for most of us. And build on that. And that hangs out in your energy field and your attitude and the words you speak. And that attracts more reasons, more occasions into your life for gratitude. Like attracts like. Same energy is looking for its same energy.
It seems that when I've contacted people and been in touch with some people, they'll say, well, I have this going on, this past child abuse and these other things that have happened. And in some ways that can almost become an identity. So how do people move beyond that to a place where they're forgiving sometimes the unforgivable?
This is a really great question, because the unhealed part of us really has a hard time believing that healing is possible. And that's why we have support systems. That's why we go to therapy. I mean, whenever I talk to any of my psychotherapists or coachy kind of friends, I'm just like, how do you do this when someone really shows up traumatized and broken? There's been really severe stuff, or, severe neuroses or addiction. Like, how do you hold space for that? And the answer across the board has everything to do with faith. Like, my job as their witness, as their guide for that moment in time, is to have faith that they have the capacity to heal. Okay, so that's cool. And we need help. We all need guides to get through. There are there's tools and there's methodologies that help us regulate our nervous system, that help us reframe our memories into like seeing them in different ways, and we can move on all. But the ego mind, that shadow side of ourselves, loves to stay stuck. It wants to perpetuate the illusion that we are never going to be whole. It kind of wants to keep us down. And I think at some point, the healing move is to just in a really kind of stealth way, just declare like, I am moving on. I am not that. And this really gets into a conversation around your true identity. It's like, what I'm asking all the time, especially around this how to be loving content, is like, what are you identifying as? Are you identifying as what your father said you are? Are you believing that? Are you identifying as your past, as your wounded self? Because you will just keep perpetuating that pain. Or are you going to identify as capable, loving, blessed, compassionate, and so on? Are you going to identify as a person who can be infinitely forgiving and wise? And that's going to shift the course. It's like, what I'm really here to say is like, you are not the wound. You are the healer. And all of those challenges, I think the soul dispenses those challenges to us to have us remember our true nature, which is we are powerful healers. And eventually you got to get over some things. Look at the impact, go for therapy, do all that. And then consider that you are more than that. I mean, what I would love to see is, and this is, I'm speaking as someone who's had so much therapy, right? I've done so many workshops. I've had so many different kinds of therapists and therapeutic modalities. And now I'm at a point in my life, and this could change. I might want to call my old psychotherapist next week. But right now, I feel like what's most helpful and healing to me, after I've done all that recapitulating, after I've learned the tools of boundaries and courageous conversations and all those things, and regulating my nervous system, now I'm just like, I want to focus on the energy that I am, of the energy of situations. And I'm going to focus on just higher states of being. Like the revolution, personally, I would love to see is that we all walk into therapy to get the medicine that we need. I'm speaking in a metaphorical sense, and that the therapist is there to witness us and, of course, guide us, but also that there's an intention set that at the end of that witnessing and that personal healing, that what we start to work on is forgiving the perpetrator and how our parents didn't meet our expectations. By the way, nobody's parents meet their expectations. Nobody's childhood is perfect. This is part of like how life works. You come into an imperfect system to find the perfection of yourself. We only learn through contrast. So we're going to have imperfect relationships all day long for the rest of our lives, to move into our own capacity for love.
I really like that because then it really makes it very simple for people. Everyone comes in with contrasts, with different types of challenges or things to work through, but it's not something that's just unique to one person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, this is universal. No, nobody gets out. Nobody gets out alive. Nobody is in a body on the planet and doesn't learn through contrast. It's the human duality.
There's so many people. I think one of the things that we really struggle with is being able to have harmonious relationships with others. While we work on the ones with ourselves, we can be around people who annoy us or who we don't trust or we don't like. So how do we get to this place of acceptance with them?
I have a very simple, highly enlightened methodology for this. When someone is on your nerves, when someone like you could go from the light stuff to the extreme stuff, from like they're on your nerves to like they've broken your heart. You just say to yourself, oh, I've done that before. And that's it. You build common ground. You see that, you were kind of arrogant before. There have been times when you were a little bit selfish. There have been a couple times when you kind of rounded up the truth. And it's just this immediate move of compassion. And it has you soften your reaction and your judgment towards them. Actually generate some softening, some gentleness within yourself. It works for me in all kinds of pickles. Oh, I've done that before. And maybe I was, I was a fool like them 10 years ago, and I have evolved and grown beyond that other person's ridiculous behavior, but I'm still finding a way where I can relate. And it definitely softens my reaction and certainly my words, my communication.
It's one of the things you talk about in your book is treating people with compassion.
Mm-hmm. That's it. And compassion is, I think it's a combination of mercy and being aware that we're all connected. And how I would define mercy is you really hope that someone gets a break. That's it. You may have both committed the same wrong. You may have worked much harder than they do, but your loving nature is hoping that they have it easier, because wouldn't that be great? That's mercy.
It's really allowing people to show up as they are and being okay with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. As is, love is, and as is way of being.
So, what is the purpose of heart-centered thinking?
Happiness. The alternative is no fun at all. Yeah, it's healing. It's what leads to the fulfillment that I think we're all craving.
Yeah, it's such a big deal for many people. It seems like we're in this society where we're chasing happiness as opposed to being present with it.
Yes, as opposed to seeing that there's a foundation of deep happiness that's already there. And I mean, we could talk about the difference between happiness and joy. I think happiness is more fleeting. It's more of an emotion. And I think joy is more foundational. And you can be joyful even when you're grieving. You can be joyful even when there's struggle or loss. But yeah, this goes back to, our conversation about stillness. I think when we move into stillness, we're just like, there's this appreciation within me for everything I have and really just being alive. And when you tap into that affects how you think and how you move and the choices you make.
Yeah, it really kind of keeps everything real there.
Yeah, the real, not the small real, but the capital real. Yeah.
And why don't you share that with our listeners? Because I think many of them hear, keeping it real all the time as like a hashtag or key phrase. What does that really mean?
Well, here's the thing. Keeping it real means different things to different people, because this is really about being your authentic self. But there's kind of a shadow side to this, I think, in the self-help space, which is, being loving and keeping it real is not about just spewing your emotions and your opinions to everyone all the time. If you are really awake and your intention is to communicate lovingly to anybody, then you are going to think, is this the right audience? Even though I'm feeling this, do we have to say this? I think this really would take us far in terms of romantic relationships. It's like, does it need to be said? Why does it need to be said? Is it to build a bridge and create more union or community? Or is it because you want to make it really clear that you're right, they're wrong, or how your way could be so much better? My experience is silence is so very often the loving choice. But my ego doesn't want to be silent. My ego wants to make my point. My ego will convince me that I should say it because it's the spiritual thing to do. But if I just ask my heart what to do, I often say, just let it go. And we move further, way faster. Way less disruption. So keeping it real is, for me, it's more about self-intimacy. Are you examining your motives? Are you asking, like, what's the intention behind my communication? Why do I really think I need to say this? Are you looking at what's causing you pain? Are you being real about your insecurities and your vulnerabilities? And when you can get real with that, then you can, you generate the space to hold those things. If you just got honest, hey, the reason I'm doing this and want to achieve this is because I want everybody to think that I'm worthy. And you go a little bit deeper. Oh, yeah. The reason I'm doing this, I'm chasing this goal, is because I just want my dad to tell me that he sees me. That's intimacy with self. And when you see that, it will change what you go after. Maybe you still run the race. Maybe you're still trying to crush those goals. That's cool. But you do them from a more aware place. Maybe those goals turn into being more about being of service to others, or just they really are in your zone of joy. But you look at what's driving you. That's real.
Oh my goodness, I love that. I love that. In your experience, do you find that there's a certain amount of strength in gentleness? Because I think a lot of times people confuse that for weakness.
I think gentleness is the medicine that everybody needs on the planet right now. I think it would change everything. And it's counterintuitive. At this point, it's counterculture. But, if you look at any predicament, if you're in the middle of chaos, what's the solution? Simplicity. If someone is yelling at you, what's the good move? Be quiet. You don't yell back. Don't, no gas on the fire. And right now there's hostility. We're in an epidemic of all kinds of violence. And it seems like it would be, annihilation, or it would be foolhardy. But really the power move is gentleness, to be gentle with our own judgments and to be gentle with everybody else we're judging. And that is really what diffuses the bomb and tyranny, really. Self-tyranny and external tyranny. Gentleness dissolves the upset ego that's trying to over control everything. Yeah. It's a characteristic I've seen in most of the leaders that I respect. Spiritual, political, healing industry, all of it. They get to a point where they have this, I mean, they're really what I would call heart-centered leaders. There's an inclusiveness that they have. Like everybody has a place at the table. And so we have to, with gentleness, listen to everyone's edgy opinions and heartbroken, sometimes hostilely expressed needs. This is really, what we're talking about with the capacity to hold space. You are gentle with everybody's edges, including your own.
Oh, I love that. I love that, because how often are we very critical of our own edges? We start with us and then we kind of spill on to others with, the shame and guilt and rejection that we've encountered through our lifetime.
That's it. And we just shame and reject others until we are gentle with our own history of shame and rejection.
Where do you think people really get hung up when they start to do a process of becoming more loving?
That's actually a great question. Where do we get hung up? Well, as I mentioned before, the wounded self has a hard time believing it has the capacity to heal. And we're really undoing eons of conditioning, right? Like, whether it's just this lifetime or lifetimes or all the different cultures and lineages that are baked into all of our systems that tell us that, we should be against each other, or we shouldn't be too big for our britches, or we should prove our worth, earn our keep, etc. So that's what we're getting hung up on, is just messaging that's really like baked into us on a cellular level about how we should not be loving, and how love is weakness. And that is the biggest lie ever believed. The truth is that actually love is the answer to everything we're craving. Whether you want the expensive handbag, or a fulfilling relationship, or to make your first six figures, or whatever it is, or to get on the team, underneath all of that, I think this is without exception, what the human soul is craving is home, belonging, rest, love. And we need to be that and give that to really get the world on track. We know it's a game changer. Everybody knows.
So it's that ripple in the water. When we learn how to become more loving, then it affects the people around us just by being that example.
Yes, absolutely. Be the change.
Well, Danielle, you've got such amazing, I loved your book, How to Be Loving. And I'm so excited you have a journal and a card deck that's coming out soon. Where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community and learn more about your work?
I got lots going on. Everything is at DanielleLaPorte.com. And right now, in terms of the book, if you go pick up a couple of copies of How to Be Loving, come to our website, let us know that you got it. There's all sorts of lovely gifts and bonuses that we're doing through the year. I'm sending out what I'm calling loving reminders every Sunday. It's like a little voice memo for me to help you get back into your heart. And I hang out a lot on Instagram. I have a membership program called Heart-Centered Membership, which is a spiritual support system where we look at a different topic every month. And then I have a leadership program for coaches, facilitators, HR directors. We currently right now have 400 heart-centered licensed leaders who are working in businesses and yoga studios and in their own coaching practices with this curriculum and workshops we have around heart-centered living and virtues in the workplace and self-compassion.
Well, Danielle, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you, everybody listening.
Well, Danielle, it's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, How to Be Loving, as your heart is breaking open and our world is waking up. Make sure to visit Danielle's website at daniellelaporte.com for more information about her work, her books, and also all the great events she has. How to Be Loving's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And if you don't see it on the shelf, ask for them to order it. And of course, support our indie bookstores. We're going to pause here for a quick moment. We'll be right back after this message. I'd like to thank Jason Eastwood at Guitarfulness for sharing his inspiring music and talent with us. His music is known worldwide for cultivating atmospheres of harmony, inner peace, and clarity. Visit Jason's website at guitarfulness.com. Join his newsletter, be part of his community, and download his music. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.